So we've talked about building the value, right? We have to build value for everything that we do and how we build that. Talked about asking open-ended questions. Anytime we ask a yes or no question, it is so detrimental because we're giving the patient the option at that point. They always have an option, please do not misunderstand. But nobody wants to get dentistry done. Nobody wakes up in the morning and says, I am so excited, I'm going to the dentist today and I'm going to get 2 crowns done. Lucky me. They don't do it, okay? Everybody's like, oh, I have to do it. We need to look at dentistry, and your office in particular, as almost like it's retail, okay? Healthcare, we're not. We want to be, okay? And it's moving in that direction. But when you look at hospitals, doctors' offices are the worst, aren't they? The people there are so rude, and they flat out do not care. Well, they don't have to care because you're going to keep coming back. That's where your insurance tells you that you have to go. Well, in dentistry, our patients have a choice. Even if they have the insurance that you're in network with, there's others that do it too. So they can always go somewhere else. So we have to be very careful that we're building our value, we're talking to our patients, and that we're looking at ourselves as retail, because when a patient comes in and buys from you, you want them, when they have a need again, you want them to come back and buy from you again. You want them to go tell their friends and neighbors that they bought from you and what they bought and that they loved it. So we kind of have to have a different bit of a mindset, because we're not a hospital. Hospitals have investors that pump money into their bank accounts, and they don't have to make exceptions. They don't have to build rapport with patients, because people are going to go to the hospital to get work done that they need done. It's just the way it is. But dentistry is not that way. People look at dentistry as elective. I don't think it's elective. I think if you want to be healthy, you really need to start with where everything starts, in the mouth. But that's my thoughts, that's my opinions. But I like to share that with my patients. I want my patients to know how I feel. So if your patients don't move forward with treatment, there needs to be real concern, because they're not doing what they need to do to be healthy. And again, by asking those questions, we find out, what are your goals? It's really important that when we have a treatment plan, especially on a new patient that we don't know, and especially if it's larger, that we're taking the time to ask that patient, what are your goals? What are your healthcare goals? What are your oral hygiene care goals? What do you want to see? Are you concerned about keeping your teeth for the rest of your life? Are you worried about fixing the problems that you have and hoping they stay fixed? Are you wanting to get the best use of your natural teeth, or are you looking at, hey, it's totally fine if I get dentures in 5 years? Because there's people like that. So we have to know what our patient wants, what their goals are, in order to be able to build the value for the treatment that you're offering. That's what comes into play when you're talking about these conditions. So we have these conditions. Again, people don't buy what they don't value, and they don't buy what they don't perceive they need. So if I don't think I have a need, I don't care if you're giving me something, I don't want it. If I don't feel it's going to benefit me, or I don't have a need for it. So it's not just the value, it's the need. But if we start again telling people, you need, you're not going to have as many people on your schedule, because people don't think you need to tell them what they need, okay? We have to show them the condition and show them the benefit of getting the treatment, as well as what happens if they don't do the treatment. That's a big part of it. But if we're showing them what the treatment is and what it can do to impact their overall health, are we talking about everything we do in the practice? Have any of you had an issue, not an issue, just a situation? A patient hasn't been in for a couple of years. They show up and they've gone somewhere else and had full veneers done or the full smile makeover. And you're sitting there going, we do that? But they didn't know you did it because we didn't talk about it, right? Happened to you? It's frustrating, isn't it? It's like, oh, I wish they knew. So what are some things that you do in your practice that your patients may or may not know you do?
You're correct.
I'm sorry? Clear correct? Okay. What else? I'm sorry? Okay.
Whitening.
What kind of whitening do you do? Core? Okay.
Botox.
That's what I thought you said was, but I'm like, wait a minute, who? This is a whole new conversation. No. Do you do Botox in this office?
Yes.
Do you realize that that is nowhere in easy to be seen information on your website? Are you aware of
We
that?
have a new website that's about to roll out.
Okay.
Like any day, once I get people more bios.
Great. So I spent all that time for no reason. Wonderful. So everybody knows you can come here and get a crown or a filling. Okay, we know that. But if you're not talking to your patients about these things, how do they know you do them? They don't. Do you tell your patients? Do you guys talk about these things? No? When we're talking to patients about their conditions, that's a great opportunity to talk about the other things that we do. So one of the things that I've started having my team do before the doctor even gets in the room, if a patient comes in and they have a concern or a need, maybe they have a tooth that they came in because they wanted the tooth extracted. Okay, well, just because they said that's what they wanted doesn't mean that's what we're going to do, right? We don't know why they think that. Maybe they've been told they need an extraction, or maybe their cousin's friend's next door neighbor had the same problem and they had an extraction. We don't know why. But if it's determined that we're probably going to be removing this tooth, that's what the patient desires. We've talked about other options. Restoring the tooth, is the tooth even salvageable? We want to talk to the patient about all the options that we have, because when the doctor comes in, my doctor doesn't want to spend 15 or 20 minutes going over different options with a patient, and my front office doesn't want to spend tons of time with 4 or 5 different treatment plans for the patient to not know what they want because we've overwhelmed them with options, right? I mean, it happens. So we will ask the patient very simple questions. I'm going to use an extraction as an example. So the tooth's going to be taken out. That's what you're desiring to have done. The doctor he's going to talk to you about that. That may be your best option. If we take this tooth out, we need to talk about replacement options. Do you want a single tooth replacement option, or do you want a multi-tooth replacement option? And the patient will look at my assistant and go, I don't understand. For replacement, do you want it to be that singular tooth, or do you want to involve other teeth, like a fixed bridge or something? We've got photos, something like this. No, I don't want to involve other teeth. Okay, so you want a single tooth option. Do you want something you can take out, or do you want something that stays in that you can't take out? Oh, I want something that stays in. I take something out, I'll lose it. Okay, so now we know that we're not going to talk to the patient about a bridge, and we're not going to talk to the patient about a flipper or a partial, right? Because they don't want that. That's not what they want. So then we discuss, the patient wants a single tooth fixed option. You know, I showed him some photos about implants. We've talked about if you did restore the tooth, it gives my doctor a little more direction on where they can go. We've already eliminated all the extraneous things. But when we're talking to patients about that, implant is a great option. You know, this is what an implant does. What questions do you have? We talk about that. I would be looking in their mouth if they've got a lot of other issues going on. They've got a lot of crowns, or we're looking at form and function. Do you know we do clear correct? We can fix a lot of these things from happening in the future if your bite is more stable. Would you like the doctor to talk to you about that? If the doctor's not being the one to bring it up. If you don't tell people what you do, how are they going to know? Right? And when you're treatment planning, that's the best time to do it, once you've talked to them, because you have their attention. They're looking for solutions to a problem. Is that problem real, or is it perceived? That's what you have to determine. Does the patient understand their problem? Okay, so we've got to talk about that problem. We've got to talk about that condition. We've got to give them all the information on that. If they don't perceive the problem, they will not buy the solution. I don't care if you're giving it to them. They will not do it. Just like Christy wouldn't buy my pen because she didn't think she needed it. Okay? So we want to talk about what we're doing in the office. What can we do? What other services do we offer? How long have you been doing Botox?
Since Dr. Thompson came, we have Botox.
Okay.
Oh, and we have Dr. Atkinson that does Botox too.
You do Botox too? Jeez Louise. How long have you been?
Almost 10 years.
So a long time. Okay. Do you guys do a lot of it here?
No, not enough.
Nobody knows we do it.
Exactly.
So,
Oh.
did I see a dermatology place around here? Did I? Yeah? Oh, well, that's where they're going, right? But they could be doing it here. But we're not telling them. Why are we not telling them?
We don't know how to schedule it.
We have to schedule it, we don't know how to schedule it with the delivery of it. Yes.
Okay.
We're working the kinks out.
We don't know how
I've
to.
been working the kinks out a long time.
I was going to say, oh, is he new to the practice? Are all of you familiar with the implementation of what Botox is, what it does, how it works, ideal patient? Are all of you familiar with that? No? That's why you're not selling it. Because nobody knows to talk about it.
You know, I'm starting to inject my scalp now.
I'm telling you what, that's your best calling card. Absolutely.
We did a lot of Botox when I worked in Atlanta, like almost every patient. And we would do it in hygiene, and I'm like, you can do something about that?
Yeah.
Like you can do it today, and I have it all drawn up and ready. Doctor come in.
Nice.
Hygiene, so.
Yeah.
I mean, it was that easy. That was easy.
I would highly recommend that you have Dr. Thompson maybe do a training for everybody, or get your rep in here. Because if you guys see it and you believe it and you understand it, you will talk to patients about it. But we tend to not, because it's, we don't know quite how we're scheduling it. I don't really know what it does. They're going to ask me questions I'm not going to know, so then we don't talk about it.
Also, the staff has it.
It's huge.
It's like, they're like, oh, you look so young. Well, I'm not.
Exactly. In my office, half the people that are there are done with aligner therapy, but they still wear their retainers. And we do that because we want people to say, well, I just don't know if I could ever do that. Oh, I'm wearing one right now. Could you even tell? And they're like, oh my gosh. And it opens up that conversation. So it's just being comfortable with the services that your office provides, because that's what helps you to reach more people, reach more of your ideal patient. Okay? If you guys offer Botox, you should be shouting it from the rooftops, because everybody wants it. Nobody will admit they want it, but they want it.
And there's
Okay?
a lot of patients in the area that has DMJ that they can't find a provider
Yeah.
that will do it in office.
Exactly. So, huge opportunity for you guys. That's exciting. That's exciting. I'm going to have to check back and see how that's
Back
going.
then, if I'd have known, I definitely
I
would
can't
have.
imagine anybody near Trenton's office providing that right now.
Yeah, we have it. There's no-
When you don't think they're right. Oh, fine, no.
Yeah, that's huge. That's huge. So, we've talked about building the value. We've talked about asking the questions. We've talked about asking open-ended questions, right? Okay. So, body language is another part of this. When we're presenting treatment to a patient, there's an aspect of body language. Okay? Please tell me that no one has ever presented treatment with the patient laying reclined in the chair. I won't judge you, but please tell me it never happened, okay? Dentistry is a very intimate medicine. Patients are laying flat on their back. They're in a very compromised position at that point. Now you've got somebody you may or may not know putting their hands in your mouth, doing what you may or may not even understand. So it's a lot of trust, okay? You don't ever want to break that trust. You want to build that trust because the more the patient trusts you, the more they're going to move forward with your treatment recommendations. And the longer they'll be patients and the more people they'll refer. Okay, that's always a beautiful thing. We want patients that show up, pay their bill, do the recommended treatment, and refer others, right? Build relationships with them. We want long-term patients. So our body language does a lot when we're talking about treatment case acceptance. I'm going to take you yesterday. I didn't see. I wasn't looking. I was just listening. Show me with her how you would be sitting, where you would be sitting when you present a treatment plan. Okay.
Ideally, I would be in front of her.
Okay. So she's sitting in the chair, sitting up, correct?
Sitting up, yes.
And you guys are knee to knee and eye to eye.
Yes.
Okay. Very important. Always remember that, knee to knee and eye to eye. When the doctor comes in for the exam in hygiene, do you guys sit your patient up? So he's knee to knee and eye to eye, right? Or she's knee to knee and eye to eye. Okay. Very important. Always makes the patient feel like they have some control when you do that. So with our body language, we always want to be in a position where we're facing them because we're open, right? We don't want to be sideways with them because that's closing part of us off. We always want to be facing knee to knee, eye to eye. If you have on, a mask is okay, eyewear is okay. If you have a shield on, please remove it for this because you're putting a huge barrier. You're saying, I can't relate to you. We know what it's for, but in treatment estimate, it's not good. So we're knee to knee, eye to eye. We're discussing the treatment. As I'm assuming it was yesterday, your clipboard is facing the patient. The patient is seeing what you're doing.
Yeah, I had it like this, like you're discussing it.
Okay. So are you beside her or are you facing her?
Like, I was kind of angled and
Okay.
like this so that I could look at her, but it's
Okay.
taking her turn.
Okay, yeah. So if she's in the chair and you guys are knee to knee and eye to eye, it would be more like this. Okay, so you're looking at it, you're not. You have it right here in front of you like that. Does that make sense to everybody? We're not doing this. We're doing this. We're letting the patient see. It tells the patient, it tells the patient that we have transparency. We're not hiding anything because we're putting the treatment plan facing them. We're not holding it, shielding it, doing anything like that. We're not hiding anything from them. Psychologically, they pick up on that. So we're going over everything. As we're talking, we're kind of showing, like if I had this here, if I was talking, I've got something in my hand other than my finger, a pen, a pencil, whatever, and I'm doing this. I'm showing them what I'm talking about as I'm going down the way, okay? My bottom line, what the patient is going to be paying, is typically the last thing you're going to talk about. So once again, the discussion that you and doctor had was about that decay that you have in that tooth. What questions do you have for me about the treatment? I don't have any questions. Great. So I'm going to go over all of your responsibility. This is your total investment for that treatment. This is what we expect your insurance to pay. It's a nice portion. They're going to cover about X amount. So we're going to ask you to cover this amount. If there's any balance or credit when the insurance pays, we'll settle up at that time. How does that sound? Great. And then what I do is their portion, you circle it. That's the most important number to the patient on that page. They don't care about any other number, but what are they going to have to give you a credit card for? Okay, so that's the number we're going to talk about. We've already told them that their insurance may pay more, may pay less. It's written all over our treatment estimates. We all do that, okay, so it's all over. They know. They're going to get a copy of this. I loved what you said. Very important yesterday. If you could please sign and date this, explains I went over this with you. I always tell a patient, this is not committing you. This is just explaining that I went over the financial implications with you if you do decide to move forward, or when you decide to move forward, this is already done. Sometimes people will be like, I'm not signing anything. This just states I went over this with you. It's not committing you to any type of treatment. Okay? I always like patients to know that. So we've given that to them. We're knee to knee, we're eye to eye. Once we say to them, we would ask you to collect this much at the time of scheduling. How does that sound? That's the last thing we say. That's it. Don't say another word. It's very, very important. There's a saying in sales, it's whoever opens their mouth first goes home with the product. And it's kind of like that in dentistry. If you now speak, the patient may not move forward. Okay? They have to process. They may be a D, and they followed you, and they're like, okay, good, it's fine. It's done. They may be like me, a C, and I'm running through everything in my mind, and then I get squirrels, and I'm running off on other things, but I got to look at this. So they have to process. Give them time to process. The silence is okay. How does that sound? And you do not want to look at them in the eye. Look away. You've got your paper here. Da-da-da, da-da-da, da-da-da. I'm looking at you. How does that sound? And then I'm going to look away. And I'm just going to look around. If you stare at them, it makes them uncomfortable. People have to process the information. So they're going to be, and if you're staring at them, they're like, I'm on display. I have to make a decision right now. If you look away, it tells them you have time. However long it takes for you to make a decision, but they need to say the next thing. They may ask a question. What about, and then they have a question. That's a question that's going to lead to an objection that you're going to overcome. When you're done with that, what other questions do you have for me? If they have another question, you answer it. What other questions do you have for me? When they say, I have no more questions, great. So let's go ahead and get you scheduled. It's not a question, right? You don't have any more questions. I don't have any either. Great, let's go ahead and get you scheduled. Just need you to sign and date here for me. If they have a question, it's going to come up. Remember, they won't move forward if they have questions. So it's okay. But you have to keep it going without interrupting their train of thought.
So you don't have them sign or to say, and you'll just sign here or whatever that. You don't say that.
I do if it's part of what I'm saying, if it's a crown. This is what your investment's going to be. This is what we expect your insurance to cover. I'm going to ask you to cover this much today. Just need you to sign and date here. How to, if we settle up, if there's any credit, that whole thing, need you to sign and date here. Just states that I explained that to you. Then I'll say, how does that sound? But if it's a big treatment plan, no, I don't yet. I want them to process all of this. That's a great question. Thank you. I want them to process all the information because the doctors talked about all of this. We reviewed it. We went through the order. We went through what the total investment is going to be. We went through how much time it's going to take. I did all that before I talked about the numbers. So now I want them to process that because that's a lot of information. Somebody comes in to get a cleaning and they're getting this huge treatment plan, which that's our job, right? We need to let them know. We need to make them aware. But they probably weren't expecting that. Now, some will come in and say, I know I need some work done. I know I got some stuff I got to do. But it's still, seeing it in black and white, that's a lot. It's a lot to take in, so they need time to absorb it. But the silence is okay. And sometimes you're going to be uncomfortable, and you're going to be like, I need to say something. Don't say anything. Let them speak next, because they're going to either say, where do I sign? I have a question. Or what's the next step? That's what you want, is for them to say, I'm signing this. What's the next step? Okay? I promise you it will be uncomfortable. The more you do it, the easier it gets. Then you're just kind of like, you're waiting for them to say something. Once you get that, just what you normally what you do. They sign that, you take it up front, you do your handoff if you're not scheduling them in the back. If you're scheduling them, get them scheduled, give them their appointment card, whatever it is you do there, that whole procedure that you have. Take them up front and do your handoff. Can someone give me a sample handoff? Can somebody pass somebody off so I can hear what? We're just gonna start picking.
Neil Shell's good at handoffs.
Okay. Okay, so,
She's ready.
okay. Okay, pick a patient. Pick a patient.
Pick the patient.
Mhm.
Tracy can be a patient.
Okay.
Only patient.
Okay, so Tracy was in and she had, that's right. Did the number 3 crown. She needs some more work. You've gone over the treatment plan. She signed it. Now you're taking her up front and you're handing her off to the front office.
Okay, I work on the schedule, so I'm taking her up
Okay.
to Trish.
Okay.
And I hand her off to, I hand Trish the paper, and I tell Trish, we did today, we did the, Tracy, we did number 3, we did crown, and a bill up on her. The next visit is scheduled. Tracy, Trish is gonna help you the rest of the way out. Sorry.
That's okay. No, it's fine. It's fine.
In other words, you have to pay her?
Have a great day.
Okay. Perfect. The one thing I would change, we're done with Tracy today, or this is Tracy. I love that you guys use the patient's first name because sometimes when you're sitting up front, you don't know the patient, or you're busy, you don't know who they have, and you're sitting there going, oh my gosh, who is this? So this is Tracy. We're finished up today with her number 3 crown or whatever it was you did. The doctor has invited her back for. What is she coming back for? What did you schedule her for crown?
Receiving filling on number 2.
Perfect. So the doctor has invited her back for a crown seat and a filling on number 2 because of decay, condition, right? I want the patient to remember why they're coming back. I've already gotten her scheduled and reviewed her treatment with her. If you would please go ahead and finish her up. Tracy, Dana has you here. She's going to take care of your next steps. What other questions do you have for me? Not do you have questions, what other questions? Okay? Now you've basically told that patient, you repeated in front of the other team member, this is what we did, this is why they're coming back. So we've built the value because now when they're asked for money, we don't want to say, yeah, we did their cleaning today. We did the cleaning, or we did their healthy mouth cleaning, we did their periodic evaluation, we took 4 bite wing x-rays, we did a visual oral cancer screening. I'm giving value, right? So when someone says it's your total visit today is $287, I'm not like, for a cleaning? I've got the value. So then what they're coming back for, the condition that they're coming back for, and that the person that you're handing them off to is now going to take great care of them and take care of their next steps. So that person knows exactly now, this person is the one I'm dealing with. This person next to me is leaving. And when you bring your patient up, you're always standing shoulder to shoulder, right? When you're talking to the front office. Does that make sense? Okay. What other questions do you have for me? None. Great. It was wonderful to see you today. Thank you so much for coming in, just like you would normally do. Okay? I want to try that again with somebody else now that we've gone over the parameters. I'll pick. Asia, is that right? She thought she was hiding. She was like perfect there. She thought she was hiding.
You said you don't remember names, but you remember hers.
Everybody remembers
I could always say the beautiful woman in the white sweater. Okay, pick a patient. Okay, so Trish came in today and you did 3 fillings, and she needs to come back for 2 more fillings on the other side. and she signed the treatment plan, you've got her scheduled, you're passing her off to somebody at the front desk so that they can collect for today. There you go.
All right, Wendy, today on Trish, we did, what was it on there?
We did like 3 fillings today.
We did 3 fillings on Trish today. She's scheduled for her next appointment.
Okay. Again, what is her next appointment? The doctor has invited her back for fillings. Okay. Wonderful. So once we tell them, and the reason I'm saying we need to tell why that condition is it's part of what's called a reason to return. Okay? Have you all ever heard of this? You have? Okay. So we did her 3 fillings today. The doctor has invited her back for 2 more fillings due to active decay on the lower right side. I've presented her treatment to her, gotten her scheduled. We're going to take care of your next steps. Here we go. What questions do you have? When we have something called reason to return, this helps tremendously with the patient retention for them showing up for their next appointment. It's a psychological thing. It's a call to action, if you will, for the patient. In your notes, I'm sure when you guys do your notes, typical notes, you've got your diagnosis, you've got your prognosis, what the patient came in for, you've got what you did, your specifics of the appointment, and what your next visit is, right? Does that sound pretty average? Okay. So your next visit should always, not just fillings, but you should have the condition. Active decay on 13 and 14, comma, composites, DO and MO, or whatever it is. The reason for that is you're giving that in front of the patient to the front office so they know there's a reason. It's in the note what that reason to return is. And if we're taking it all the way that we should, when that next appointment is created, like Asia created that appointment for your next 2 fillings, that appointment note states active decay 13 and 14. Okay, that's the condition. That's the reason the patient's coming back. The reason we do this is now she decides 2 weeks later, a week before her appointment, right, life happens, people cancel and change appointments, calls up, I'm not going to be able to make my appointment next week, I need to move it to another time. We can look at that appointment and we know exactly why she was coming in, and we can use that to our advantage. I'd be happy to help you with that. I know the doctor's going to be disappointed. He had you scheduled for 40 minutes or 50 minutes or whatever it was to take care of that active decay in your teeth. What was the reason that you're not going to be able to come in? I ask them that. We need to know, right? We don't just smile and say, okay, no problem. Call us later. It's a problem, right? Now I've got a hole a week out I got to fill. So it is a problem. I've got a meeting at work. Trish says, I got a meeting at work. I can't make it. Okay, well, I'm going to let the doctor know that you called and that you've moved this appointment. Let's find you another time. How does that sound? I'm not going to let her say, I'm going to call you. Doctor's really concerned with that active decay. But if I don't have that information, what do I say? Okay, thank you. Call us. Because I don't know why she's coming back in, right? It says fillings. I don't know. I don't know if it's active decay. I don't know if there's light fractures. I don't know what it is. Crowns are the same thing. Broken cusp. Ooh. Okay, now I can talk about that. So we're passing information from the clinical end to the front end that we can use to help people keep their appointments, be on time for their appointments, and stay healthy, right? Yes?
How do you have that condition information at your fingertips? We have to kind of go digging. We have to find the last narrative note. It's kind of often buried.
Pain in the butt, isn't
Like,
it?
where do you put that? So you
In
can
the
write-
appointment note.
on the appointment?
So everybody's always heard.
Not the like in the block, on the schedule.
Mm-hmm.
On the schedule.
Yeah. You put that, it's called reason to return, RTR.
RTO.
RTR, reason to return. Everybody's heard, everybody leaves with an appointment, right? We've been saying that for hundreds of years in dentistry. I don't think everybody leaves with an appointment, but I think everybody leaves with an appointment created. Okay? If they can't schedule, don't schedule, won't schedule, it goes to the unscheduled list, right? Do you guys have that in EagleSoft? I don't work on EagleSoft, so I'm assuming. Okay. So when someone's working that, how much fun is that? You get to go through and you pull up that appointment and then you have to go to the notes. What are we doing here? Wouldn't it be easier to pull that appointment up and see active decay 13 and 14? Oh, that's why I'm calling the patient, because they have active decay. And then you can follow your verbiage for calling that patient and talking about the reason to return. So if it's in the notes at the bottom, next visit, what the condition was and what they're doing, then the appointment is created, put in the reason to return is put in that appointment note. Also, it helps if your patient is short canceling, because you can say, wow, doctor's really concerned about that active decay. How concerned are you with this? But if you have to go look in the appointment note, there's all this awkward silence. And so we don't do it, right? Let's be honest. We tend to not do it. We tend to just take the appointment and move it because it's easier. We're in a hurry. The phone's ringing. People are in front of us. That's what we do. But if we have our information right in front of us, the front office can be much more effective in salvaging that appointment. Okay?
There's a $75 broken appointment fee. I mean,
Do your patients pay that? Do they pay it?
Sometimes.
Yes.
Sometimes? How many? They do? How many times do you write it off?
More than they pay.
Here and there. And
More than they pay
You're
it.
gracious with it, you're gracious.
Okay.
But some do and have been asked, yes, to pay it, but it's probably because they're repeat offenders and continue with their bad behavior.
Yep. Yep. And some people don't pay it and don't come back, right?
Correct.
Yeah. I'm very on the fence about broken appointment charges because I almost feel like instead of teaching and setting the expectation of what we want the patient to do, we're not setting the expectation and we're punishing them when they do it. So I'm really on the fence about those. I see the benefit. I work with an office that when their patients have a broken appointment fee, that fee is then donated to a local charity. And they tell them that. There's going to be a charge for you missing your appointment. It will be donated to the local Humane Society in your name. So you need to pay that. So people tend to pay it more, I think. But anyway, I digress. But yes, yes.
Well, if you want to continue on this topic, I want to go back to the invitation.
Oh, no, go ahead. Go ahead.
So why would you say to the patient, the doctor has invited you back versus Ms. Jones, or you're handing off, the doctor has invited Ms. Jones back, instead of saying, Ms. Jones is coming back for her appointment for her next fill?
You could. You could. I think invited is softer. It's more like you were asked to come back to do this instead of, but
That leaves them an opportunity, an invitation.
I declare.
I decline.
But my point is if
Yeah.
you're telling, if you're saying is coming back, then now two people know that, two people now know that I'm coming back. It's more accountability.
Absolutely. If that is more comfortable, absolutely. Absolutely. You can always say that. You know, I've got her next appointment scheduled. You know, whatever is comfortable is what I want you to say, okay? What I don't want you to say is, Mrs. Jones needs to come back. That's what I don't want you to say, because she doesn't need to do anything. We want her to make the choice to come back. She wants to get the work done, so she sees the value. She trusts you, so she wants to come back to get that work done. So she shows up. Yes?
Like when you said, like if they're calling to cancel
Mhm.
and you're trying to reschedule, so they know what the condition is, they scheduled it before,
Mm-hmm.
is it like a good idea to put that kind of like on, like maybe they're the ball on court, and I know how important this was to you, having this done,
I asked them, how important is this?
how,
Yeah. How important is this to you? Because if one of the biggest reasons patients cancel their appointments. I don't know if you guys have a broken appointment issue. If you have a policy for it, it happens, right? So it happens. But the number one reason that people cancel their appointment is because they don't believe they need the work done. They don't have the buy-in for the work. So if I have the opportunity to educate one more time, how important is this to you? Well, it's not been bothering me. I understand that. And that's a good thing. This will eventually start hurting. And when it does, I can promise it's going to be on a weekend or a holiday, and we're not going to be in the office. And so you're going to call the 800 number, or you're going to call the emergency number, the doctor's not going to be able to get in. So if you're concerned about getting this taken care of, wouldn't it make sense to do this sooner rather than later? And then I can usually, yeah. Exactly. If it's important to them, if they're giving you reasons why it's not important, it's an opportunity to educate. It's an opportunity to have that patient see that they have this issue, this condition, and that they have to own it. Once a patient owns a condition, they will get it taken care of if they financially can. If they don't own it, they won't get it taken care of. Okay? Okay, so we've passed off to the front. We're talking about our body language. We've got to be certain that we have open body language. What is, if I stood up here like this, what would that do to you guys? What would you think? Yeah. Well, and I have to explain that a lot of times. I'll be places and it's like I have my arms crossed. I'm not off. I'm just cold because I'm always cold. But anytime you're facing somebody and your shoulders are back, you're open. If you're talking, like if I was talking to you and I was talking to you like this, I'm closing off. I'm not open to what you're telling me. Okay? If you turned, you would not be open to hearing what I'm saying or what you're telling me. Okay? So our body language says a lot. Eye contact, uncomfortable, isn't it? Yes. Oh, everybody hates eye contact. Come on in. Looks like you got something. You can always come on in with that. So we want to make sure that our body language speaks. Eye contact is the biggest indicator.
What is, I'm sorry.
Eye contact? Except once you've asked them you've gone over their treatment, don't stare them down, okay? Look away. But when you're explaining something to a patient, look them in the eye. Have that eye contact. If you're looking at them and you're, well, yeah, you know, this is what we're doing, you're not trustworthy. The psychological mind picks up on that. What are they hiding? Why are they not telling me everything? So eye contact is huge. If your patient looks away, that's okay. And you can look away briefly. Yeah, it's uncomfortable. It really is. It's a skill. But if your patient looks away, you can briefly look away, but come back to the eye contact, even if they're not looking at you. Because eye contact says, I'm being truthful with you. This is important. I need you to hear this. This is what I'm saying to you. Do you need me to wait, Christy? Okay. So that body language is important. When the doctor comes in, and now I know that operatories are set up. Everybody has different setups, and sometimes setups dictate where we stand and where we are in the room. When the doctor comes in for the hygiene exams, the doctor is, you sit your patient up, right, and you get up. You're introducing the doctor coming into the room, correct? From a hygienist. Oh, look, Dr. Davis is here. Or, oh, look, Dr. Thompson is here. Whatever. Yeah, okay. So we get up, the doctor sits down, talks to the patient. I'm sure you guys have your trigger word because you have your handoffs. They give you that verbal information. So I'm sure your trigger word, tell me what you were talking about, what have you two been discussing, what did we find today, whatever that is, right? What do you guys say?
I don't know what this trigger word is. We don't have a trigger word. I have a handoff, but I can see a trigger word if I'm reading you correctly. It could be helpful because a lot of times I'll come in, I'll say, hey, wonderful to have you. Tell me about what's going on. But I expect a handoff from the hygienist. So we have to kind of let that lull down and then I'm like, all right.
Who are you talking to?
Oh, no, not yet.
So, no trigger.
Okay, you're ready. Okay.
So trigger words are very helpful for that. When the doctor comes in, I highly recommend that something like, hi, it's wonderful to see you. It's great to see you back. Glad you're here. If the doctor, how many of you have ever cringed if the doctor walks in and says, how are you? Let's be honest, we do, right? It's like, oh no. 5 minutes later, the patient's still talking. So again, we don't want, at this point, we don't really want an open-ended question. The doctor needs that time with the patient. We've got to have that rapport. That is very important. It's nice to see you. Glad you came in today. We've got to get the exam going so we can do, we can still talk, but tell me what was going on today. Tell me what you guys talked about today. My doctor says, Heather, because who are we talking to, right? Heather, tell me what you guys were talking about today. So then she goes into her transfer, whatever that is. I'm sure each of you doctors have that specific that you like from them when you go in. So they go through that. And then you could be like, great. And we always include that one personal thing we found out because we want to try to find out something personal, right? Did you know, or Mrs. Jones and I were talking, or I found out, and that then gives that the doctor has that time that they can have that talking. Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know your son was graduating college already. That's awesome. Share with me a little more about that. Whatever it is you say to get the conversation going before you start doing the exam. But the patient is seated. The hygienist is standing wherever you're standing because your rooms are what they are. Okay, ideally, you are on the other side of the patient, facing the patient, and the doctor's over here sitting, facing the patient, or like this to the patient. Doctor does the exam. Hygienist is taking the notes that they need. Doctor gets up, thanks the patient, leaves. Hygienist comes back around. The doctor, I'm assuming, still, you sat the patient back up, correct? We didn't leave them down. Okay, hygienist sits down. Do you?
No, often not, because the hygienists are wanting to get right back into treatment.
Okay. So I highly recommend that when you're
It's a lot
done,
up and down. So they
It
usually
is.
come in, they're laying down. So most of the time they'll sit them up.
mm-hmm,
I do the exam. There's a handoff and exam, and then they'd be up.
yeah.
No, then I put them down, do the exam, and then I usually leave. We don't sit them back up.
Okay. Just keep in mind that when you get up and you're moving around and the hygienist is coming back and sitting back down, that patient is flat, and that's a very intimidating position to be in. Because these people, they're up. Do what?
Double cheese out.
But because they're in a supine position and you're over and above them, it's a very intimidating position to be in. So
But that's where they need to be for treatment. So we haven't been
When you're-
going back into.
yeah, when you're sitting down, that's where they are for treatment.
What
Do
I'm
you-
saying, after I finish the exam,
Mhm.
typically I'll leave them down because the hygienist is slipping right into the chair and picking up where they left off.
Okay. So do you stand up, is what I'm saying, or do you scoot your chair away and stand up?
I don't know.
It's like, I'm not that regimented, I don't know.
Kind of scoot away,
Okay,
I would say, and stand up.
yeah. If you leave the patient down, which some do, and that's perfectly fine, finish having your conversation with the patient before you stand up, so that you're still almost knee to knee and eye to eye. It's if you stand up and then start talking again to the patient's like this. And it's very intimidating. Not that you're an intimidating person at all, but But if you finish the conversation, scoot away and stand up, it's less intimidating to the patient. The hygienist coming in, they're sitting down and scooting right back up, so that's fine.
It usually spins around and then kind of.
Wanders off.
He tells them bye. and
Yeah.
then he like turns, but he doesn't
Yeah.
stand up over them.
A lot of times too, it just depends on how your rooms are set up. I mean, rooms are what they are, and you can't always have the ideal situation. So we've got, so we're watching our body language, right? We're making sure that we're open. We have that eye contact with the patient when we're talking with them. If you notice, when your doctor is talking to the patients, they have eye contact the whole time. And the patient is responding to that. The patient's listening. They're taking in what is being said. Again, if the patient looks away, that's fine. Let them, but don't look away and not come back and engage with eye contact. Because if you do that now, excuse me, you're breaking rapport with that patient. Anytime you break eye contact when you're talking, you're breaking rapport. Okay? Does that make sense? Okay? Perfect. So we've presented the treatment plan. We know what our body language is important. We've talked about what we're going to say when we take them up front. We want the patient to, we've gotten them scheduled in the back. That's huge important because you're committing them. We're asking those commitment questions. So the doctor got the patient to a yes. Hygienist or assistant got the patient to a yes. When they go up front, that's financials. They're going to get that to a yes. The commitment question helps the patient anytime we say, is this something you'd like to move forward with? Are you ready to move forward with this? You know, is there anything keeping you from moving forward with this? It starts the patient thinking about the full benefits of treatment. It makes them start in their mind, it starts going through all the different scenarios. It's different for each patient, that time limit. Okay, so this is another one of those, once you ask for that commitment, you don't want to say anything until they say yes or no. They're running through the benefit of treatment. We've told them why they need it, why they need to stay healthy, how it's going to benefit them. We've given them all the information. Now we're waiting for them to process that and say, yes, I'm ready to move forward. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, do we need to stop for lunch? Is that?
Whenever you're ready. It's sub sandwiches, so we can.
Oh, okay, okay. I just want to make sure it wasn't something hot that we had to worry about. Okay.
I think we can just power through lunch.
Okay.
Got a lot of hangriness.
What time is it?
Hangry one that we don't.
Okay. When you guys are presenting treatment, we talked a bit ago, you guys are using intraoral photos, correct?
Yes.
Okay. If they don't have treatment, are you taking photos anyway, if they don't need anything? Sometimes? Okay, good. You're using the intraoral photos when you're talking about the treatment, correct?
Yes.
Okay, do you use x-rays? Do your patients know how to read x-rays? No?
But they know what.
Yeah, sometimes there's things you need to show them on your x-rays. I think it's very difficult to ask patients to see decay on x-rays. Okay, I'm not a doctor, please don't misunderstand, but I know it's hard for me, and I've been doing it for years, and I still say, what is that? But using those photos, that is very, very important. Patients respond to that, and if you have them up, you have them on your screens like they're full size, right? Okay. Nice, you got the monitors? Okay, perfect. Patients can look at that, and you can use that just like you would if you're using your x-ray. You can use your picture to show. You can also show pictures of what healthy would be versus what they have, the condition that they have. Do you have photos that show your previous work, like what you've done? Mm-hmm.
Yes, we have several. We need to take more, and we need to make them more accessible.
Okay. Those are very completed patient photos, obviously with proper permission. I'm not saying don't do that, but Having those for the same types of conditions is very important for patients to see because it helps them, once again, I have this condition, someone else here had this condition, and this is what the final result was. So somebody's done this before. So if you can have those accessible, it's very nice to be able to pull those up and say, this is a very similar patient, this is what they were before, this is what we finished up. Do you see how it's much like yours? This is the result you can expect. Patients like that because it makes them feel at ease and they all of a sudden realize that, yes, it's going to be done. When you guys finish work, do you take photos for the patient to see?
Yes.
Excellent. Fillings as well? I love it. Good. So many people don't. And patients don't go home and pull their cheek back and look at the work. You don't do that?
Well, on certain days, it's more cosmetic, but not
Okay.
like, no, I haven't.
No? Do you do photos afterwards?
We as a team take a lot of photos.
Excellent.
I've asked Kendra, I haven't had a chance to talk to Cameron yet, to make sure that there's one on the screen when I come in, and that the person's elevated
Okay.
when I come in. And those rooms are kind of tight. I have to
Okay.
squeeze around to get front, but I do the best I can there, but yeah,
Okay.
it take a lot.
Taking photos when you're done with treatment for the patient to see, patients truly, I say this with all respect to all of the doctors here, patients don't know the difference between good work and bad work. Okay, to them a crown is a crown, it doesn't matter where you get it, that's why they call around and try to price it out. If you take a photo of the work you did and you show it to the patient, that's going to be probably the only time they see it. They're not going to go home and pull their cheek back and get a mirror out and say, well, let me look at this filling. Because they can't see it, right? You guys have done such a good job, they can't see it. So if you take a photo, it builds value. Now when they walk up front and someone up front says, your total today was X amount, that's what I'm collecting, it's not a surprise. They see the work you did. You work hard, show it off. Say, hey, look at what we did today. Look how beautiful your tooth is.
So it's confirmation to them that they made good investment.
Exactly, and that the work was done.
We were just holding the drill in your mouth.
A lot of times I like to after a patient has had a big bridge or a lot of crown, I always like to be in the back of the mirror, like, oh, that looks so nice.
Oh, yeah.
I think so. They're like, oh, yeah, I think it looks great, don't you? I'm like, yeah, I do.
Exactly.
She did that to me. She was like, these fillings are great. But it makes you feel better.
Exactly, you made the right choice. Excellent choice. I'm glad you got that done. Those look wonderful.
Like Chad had a couple of those, like, these those look so good. Because I know, because I can't wait to get the rest of it all done matching.
There is only top teeth, so it really.
Oh, you guys were playing with that. Yeah, all of them. Get them all done. But it really does. It makes the patient feel better because they see what you did. And they don't go home and look. So using those photos. So your before photos, obviously, your after photos. And if you have availability to use others' photos with permission, those are great to help people see what can be done, what they can accomplish with their health.
Another thing that was helpful for me along that same line was seeing the comparison, because like clinically in the photos, they didn't look so bad to me, and I could see them in my mouth, you know. And then when they're like, okay, now this is what's going on underneath it, look at this, and they're pointing out on the X-ray, this is what you see, this is what's actually doing, and that's why we need to fix it now. That also makes a difference. So it's
Yeah.
a combination.
Exactly. If you can tie it together, absolutely. Anytime you can show something, it's much better than words because it's actual patient mouth. I learned in general dentistry when we started doing the liner therapy, we wanted to become a premier provider for that. And we started taking photos more often of our patients' bite and their teeth and showing it to them. And when we would scan, we would show them the scan when we were finished. And people were like, oh my gosh, that's my teeth? Because it's just different. It's a different way of seeing it. And it helps people see what you're doing. So if you're doing the work, show it off. Show them what you've accomplished for them. And then they can be able to talk better about the work that you do. Yes?
You have the surround scanner?
We had E4D. We had the Plan Mecca.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I would have been cool.
Yeah, we were doing same-day crowns. We quit doing that because it's a single doctor practice. It was taking up too much time. But we can get them back in 2 or 3 days. So, but the scans are always, they're fun, and using that for the aligner therapy as well. So when I talked earlier, I said I don't like the minimizing words. I don't like typically, basically, usually, normally. When I talk to patients about treatment, I want to use some basic words. I want to use words that are, I don't use the word small because that minimizes, right? It's never a small filling. Right now, it's not very large is what I would say. It's not small because if it's small, well, I got plenty of time. I use words like quick and easy. This will be a very easy fix. You won't be here very long. You'll be here 25, 30 minutes. Using that to reassure. I don't like minimizing words because in the patient's mind, it's not important at that point. Your doctor is creating urgency, right? I'd like to see you back for this as soon as possible. We need to get this done as soon as possible. If we're creating urgency, we have to be sure that we're carrying that on through the presentation when they say, well, can I wait until next year to do that? Is that something you guys hear starting in about October? Okay. How do you respond to that? I just got 2 crowns done. Can it wait a year?
Yeah, there's a possibility that this treatment won't apply at that point if we let it go that long.
Mm-hmm.
No.
I love it. No, you cannot. I wish more doctors would say no. No, you should not wait.
It's possible that may be more invasive.
It's never going to be as inexpensive to fix as it is today. Exactly. People that come in for emergencies are much easier to move forward right away because they're in pain and they want to get out of pain. A lot of dental issues don't hurt, so it's hard to get people to understand. So I use words like, I don't say, if they want to wait, I don't say, well, if this starts hurting. I don't say that. I say when this begins to hurt, because it's going to, right, at some point. That helps them to visualize it is going to hurt, and nobody likes tooth pain. So when this starts to hurt you, call us right away. If someone says, can I wait till next year? You could. However, right, my favorite word, this treatment may not be valid. You said it could be worse. If it progresses, it's going to be more expensive. It's never inexpensive to fix as it is today.
I think explaining to patients that they don't understand that your teeth aren't supposed to hurt.
Exactly.
So if it hurts,
It's past waiting.
It's just a simple fix, like now you're talking about root canals.
Mm-hmm. If it's even salvageable at that point, and they don't understand that. Any kind of photos, other than the patient photos, any kind of photos that you guys have that shows people progression of these things. These are the 5 stages of a tooth becoming necrotic and not going from filling to not being salvageable. You're right here.
This is where it started to hurt. So we went from an occlusal filling.
Exactly.
Now we build up the crown.
Exactly. And so offering that information to patients helps them to visualize moving forward what they need to do using basic terms. We have our own language in dentistry, don't we? It's hard when you're new and you come in. Did you guys have dental experience? Okay, so you were good, dental. Okay, no? Has it been weird for you? It's kind of like, what are you talking about? It is our own language. And if we use that language too much with patients, we lose them. So we need to, I don't want to say dumb it down because we're not trying to not give information, but we want to use just simple terms. They know what decay is, okay? You have decay and it's eating away at your tooth. Somebody says that to me, I'm like, get it out right now. I don't care what it is, get it out. But we use descriptive terms and terms they understand. We want to stay away from these tech terms that we use. Anytime we talk about we're going to create a crown, it's we're going to create a custom-made crown. Your denture is custom-made. Your bridge is custom-made. Because it is, right? Why not let them know that? We don't have a box in the back. Again, we don't do used dentistry. We don't just go pull something out and fit it on and make it work. Hopefully not, anyway. If we get the patient through the time, the fear, the knowledge, and they still are not moving forward, it may be at this point about money, right? So we have to offer financing, which you guys do, right? You offer care credit, is that right? What else do you offer?
Sometimes some personalized, if the need is discussed, we could take half the payment at the time of prep and half at the time of seat.
So breaking it up over the appointment, a couple of appointments.
And then patients that are well known to us that, have been good patients, good paying patients, sometimes we, even spread it out for a monthly payment.
Okay. How many of your patients use care credit if they want to use care credit? None? How many patients do you offer care credit to?
Any of them that express concern about it.
Okay. Tell me how that conversation goes. What does that sound like?
We do accept care credit. We also actually offer 6 months deferred interest. So if you, no interest if you pay it all for 6 months.
Okay.
It's a program that we would just pay.
Okay.
It's super easy to apply. You can do it over the phone, you can do it online, and it's quick. You can even do it, right here in the office.
Okay. Is that pretty much what everybody says? When do you determine if you need to have that conversation? I'm sitting in front of you. You've presented me a treatment plan.
When they say, can I pay you monthly?
Okay.
Do you have a payment plan, can I pay you monthly?
Okay.
And I say, no, but we deal with a great company that will take monthly payments from you.
Okay.
And would you like to hear more information about it? And you go on.
Exactly. We do have payment options available. Would you be interested in more information? Exactly.
So a lot of the patients that I talk to, they're wanting to get treatment done when financials an issue, and they're like, wow, this is gonna take me a year to get through. Then with care credit, you can do it quicker and pay it. And so a lot of the times that.
But you don't have a lot of patients that use it, right?
There's a decent amount that I give.
You get a lot of them? You're at a different office, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
They have less insurance patients too. A lot of them are paying more out of pocket.
Okay.
Our office, we have more with insurance that covers quite a bit of it already, so they're more apt to pay.
Okay.
a portion.
Okay. I always highly recommend if you offer financing like care credit that you have more than one that you offer, something like Cherry or Sunbit, simply because somebody may not, they may have had they may have a care credit and it's maxed and they know that, or they may have applied for care credit in the past and not been approved. So they're not going to openly tell you that. They're going to say, no, I don't need to do anything. Care credit standards are very high for approving people. They've got new investors and they are extremely high. There's other solutions out there that are better for people that don't have really high credit scores or don't have a lot of expendable income. And they approve them with a lower credit score. So there are other options out there that are always good to offer to your patients. I'm always careful about in-office financing. It's fine. And breaking up, half now, half at seat, that's fine, as long as you're collecting it before they go back. I've had too many patients get their crown and come up and say, oh, I forgot my checkbook. Who leaves the house without some way to pay for something? I don't know. But you don't do more than 3 months, do you, for anybody?
No.
Okay. 3 months you're getting into banking regulations and it requires a whole bunch more paperwork. So if your patient...
That credit card, it's too scary.
Exactly. If your patient can't pay for it and they don't want to use care credit, then why would you want to have them pay you?
Yeah.
It's kind of scary, yeah. But I do recommend two because it does help people. But if they bring up money, well, do you have payments, or, man, that's a lot to come up with. We do have payment options available. Would you like to have more information about that? I don't ever assume, but I also don't want to just jump right in with financing information if they don't want it, if they're not interested.
Is Sherry another company like CareCredit?
Mhm.
It is, it's a lot easier for the patients that can't get approved with.
Because we get emails on a daily basis.
I love Cherry. I recommend them to all of my clients. They're very easy to work with. Getting the actual, how the patient applies is extremely easy. You send a link to their phone. It pulls in their information and they put in a little bit, and then it approves them. Sometimes they get approved for 0%, sometimes they don't. But then it's like between them and Cherry. And with Cherry, the fees are less than CareCredit. And with Cherry, the more volume your office does with them, the lower fees you get charged. So they kind of tier it out, if you will. Yeah. So I recommend them to everybody because they're so easy to work with. I'm sorry? Cherry, it's like the fruit. And then Sunbit, that's another one. Those are the only two that I use other than CareCredit. I do not like the ones that they offer recourse. If the patient defaults, your office should not be on the hook for the money. You want to get paid up front and have them collect the payments, because otherwise you might as well just do a payment plan yourself. I mean, why pay them to do that? Okay. Okay, any questions on what we've covered so far? No? Okay. Everything that I went over in case acceptance review, I have it up here printed out. There's 2 pages. Okay? So if you guys want to come up and get a copy, and it goes over everything that we've talked about. The big takeaway I want you to remember is getting the patient to a yes more than once and getting the commitment. Once people have verbally committed, surprisingly enough, it matters. It's a big deal. And as we talk more about the new patient intake and talking on the phone, that comes into play as well. You've got to get people committed. When you have patients that are scheduling their treatment that you've presented, you need to get a commitment from them on the date and time as well. You don't want those broken appointments. So I have you scheduled for this time. This is good for you. You've got it in your calendar, right? That's going to work for you. You get that commitment. So I'm going to say we could probably stop.